Welcome to today's Advancement Information session. We're focused today on becoming a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives, or an FACHE status. One thing to note is your local chapter provides education, scholarships, mentorship, community service, committee involvement, networking, and leadership opportunities. And ACHE Southeast Texas chapter, hosting this webinar today, is currently the third largest chapter in the nation and one of the most active. Just so you know, we cover a 29 county area, 30,000 square miles in Southeast Texas. Texas, of course, is a high growth state with lots of growth in Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, El Paso, and the Valley. And Texas is very unique also because we have 7 different chapters in the state of Texas shown here. The most chapters in the other big states like New York or California. California has 3, New York has 4, Florida has 4. We have the most by far. And now we're on par with population for the state of California, which is 30 million residents. So today's agenda, we're going to look at the value and benefits of the fellow status, eligibility requirements, the application process, the exam itself that you have to pass as part of the fellow checklist, and preparation resources, and then how do you maintain your fellow status through the years. So this slide is from ACHE National and talks about the value and benefits of your fellow. So these are the pillars for your fellow status. You demonstrate your healthcare leadership competencies by passing this board exam and becoming a fellow. So the board exam itself is similar to many other professions that have a board exam. So you become board certified in healthcare management upon passing that exam. It's a 6-hour exam. We'll talk about that more in depth later, but it shows that you have command of key leadership and healthcare competencies. It signifies your lifelong commitment to change and improvement, strengthens your leadership value to your organization. You can enjoy a high-level interaction with other fellows. You can be recognized for your achievement, as you should be. This is a very big deal to get your fellow. And you can achieve greater personal satisfaction in your career. I know that some people talk about this as one of their key milestones in their career and has helped them get higher level positions within or with other organizations. So jumping into the eligibility requirements, this has changed in recent years. Membership used to have to be a current member, a full member, for 3 years of tenure with ACHE. Now you only need a single year as a full member of ACHE. You do, if you're a faculty or an international associate, you must convert to member to apply at least for 1 year. So it does change your dues for a single year. And also to note, student associate membership does not count towards tenure. So you need to be a full member, not a student associate member, to fulfill this requirement. But again, it's only a single year. When we talk about education, you need a minimum of a master's or other post-baccalaureate degree. You have to provide either a copy of your diploma or your final conferred transcript as part of your application. Examples of eligibility are a Master of Health Administration, a Master in Business Administration, MPA, MS, also doctorates, so education doctorate, health administration doctorate, a PhD, a DNP, an MD, or a PharmD also satisfy those requirements. If you have any questions, please direct them towards ACHE National, as they can make a case-by-case review for your degree and to determine if you are eligible to advance. But generally speaking, a master's or above is eligible to advance. I should also mention, it doesn't have to be in healthcare administration. So if you have an MS in biochemistry, a master in biochemistry, that also would apply. So it doesn't have to be in healthcare administration for this degree requirement to be met. If we look at management experience, this is really usually one of the key components that people need to fulfill in terms of time before they can complete their fellow status. So you have to currently hold an executive level healthcare administration position and have 5 years of healthcare management experience. I'll say that this can also be case by case because some people have previously held executive level management experience and already have 5 years, but aren't currently in that type of position. So again, this would be a question if you have specific case, you can have have it reviewed by ACHE National. You do provide a copy of your job description and org chart and your resume as part of your fellow application. Some examples of qualifying positions. You have C-suite executives, vice presidents, directors, or department heads, or other job titles with responsibility reflecting departmental control. One item to note is sometimes your position title doesn't signify all that you do. So again, I would have that reviewed by ACHE National. Positions that don't qualify are more of frontline or just above frontline positions, and they're listed here. And again, they look at the evidence provided through your job description, your org chart, and your resume for this eligibility requirement. And again, this is one of the key stumbling blocks to become a fellow is this 5-year requirement. You also will need to obtain 2 references. One of these would be a structured interview. This is a change in recent years as well, when you could do 2 reference letters from fellows or 1 reference letter and 1 structured interview. Now, a structured interview is required for all applicants and has to be conducted by a current fellow. Your other reference can be from another fellow or a senior leader in your organization. And when I say references, these really are forms which can be done either, pencil and pen or edited on a PDF, or there's an online form that can be accessed through ache.org and filled out. So typically when I do structured interviews, and I've done probably 25 or 30, I will fill out that form as I'm doing the structured interview with the person and then submit right after that structured interview has been completed. If you need a structured interview or a reference from a fellow, you can reach out to any of us in our chapter here today. We have Cole Kalita, Kevin Long, and Danny Freeman, or myself. We'd be happy to conduct that structured interview or help provide a reference for you if needed. A lot of times I'm asked, what are the structured interview questions? And when I conduct a structured interview, I provide these in advance to my candidate so they have these and can prepare responses to them. But here are the 10 questions. You can find these online if you search for it under the structured interview at ache.org as well. But I copy and paste and provide them to my candidates before so they can prepare. Particularly, some of these questions are very specific in terms of the Council of Regents, Board of Governors, and the ACHE Code of Ethics. So they're less about your experience and more about specifics tied to those details. Now moving on to continuing education requirements. This has changed very recently, actually, as of January 1st of this year. And some people may even remember when we referred to these credits as Category 1 and Category 2 about 10 or 15 years ago. But now we have 3 categories of credits. So I want to point you over to this block on your right. So the 3 categories of credits, they've changed names slightly as well. So face-to-face credits is now called ACHE in-person credits. You need a minimum of 12 of those. So that really hasn't changed. That's the same credit that we've done in the past. They have broken out virtual, what used to be virtual face-to-face credits is now called virtual interactive credits. And you need you can have 12 of those as well. Or our qualified credits, which are the self-reported credits, which used to have up to 24 of, you now can submit up to 12. So that's been reduced to allow for the virtual interactive credits. I will say there is a hierarchy in these credits, and they've allowed for, if you get 36 ACHE in-person credits, you no longer have to worry about getting the virtual interactive credits or the qualifying credits. You'll be done. You only need, those 36 credits. If they're of the highest level, you're done. You can also do, 24 and 12 of the virtual, but you can't substitute qualifying credits for anything but those 12. So you can't use 24 qualifying credits to make up for two of the other categories. But I think it's shown in a slide in a minute. But that hierarchy stands in terms of credits. So your in-person credits right here, you can get 12 minimum, but you can go up to 36 and be done. Then the second level is the virtual interactive. Again, you can get 12, or you could get 24 and have 12 of the in-person. Just making sure that you're paying attention to the minimums or maximums. And again, the qualifying now is 12 credits maximum. This slide just shows the change in terms a little bit more in depth, but I think the point is the ACHE virtual interactive credits, just because it's a webinar, does not satisfy that requirement. Each chapter, when they provide face-to-face hours, which is now called in-person, we have to submit an application to National for that at least 4 weeks in advance. We will have to do the same for virtual interactive credits. So these will be governed as a higher level credit. So just pay attention to that. So if you go to a webinar on a chapter or healthcare leadership or that sort of thing, you have to make sure that it actually is coded and approved for virtual interactive credits. You don't have to worry about reporting those because those are reported through ACHE National automatically, but you do have to pay attention to what type of credit you are accruing as part of whatever you're going to. So that's a little bit different and a little bit more complicated, but it should get easier as time goes on. So some upcoming in-person education for national, we have the Congress on Healthcare Leadership. This is the first year it's ever been sold out. So you can no longer register for that, and that's going back a couple of weeks now. So this is very exciting. Next year, this Congress will be in Houston, Texas. So we're moving out of Chicago for, I think, only the second time ever, and will be held at the George R. Brown Convention Center downtown, which will give us even more capacity if needed. They've announced the dates. I don't believe we have any hotel room blocks available at this point, but you can pay attention to that. One great thing is if you get your fellow this year, you can go to convocation right here in Houston, bring your family with no additional cost, as opposed to trying to fly people to Chicago and go to that convocation event in Chicago. It's going to be right here in your backyard. Coming up on our schedule, August 22nd, we're doing a DEI mini conference. There's going to be at least 3 face-to-face credits available for that. Sorry, 3 in-person ACHE credits available for that. Also, November 7th and 8th will be our Healthcare Leadership Conference here. If you need in-person credits or qualifying credits, you can get a combination of both. We typically offer 12 in-person ACHE credits and a couple hours of qualifying credits at that event. And it's a lot cheaper than going to Congress. And if you don't know what Congress is just our national ACHE conference for the year. And convocation is the afternoon before Congress kicks off. And convocation is a ceremony where you are conferred your fellow status in front of a room full of people, all of the governors from across ACHE and all of the regions across ACHE National and all of the ACHE National leadership. So it's a big deal. It's very impressive. If you get the opportunity to do that, I highly encourage you to do that. And great that it's going to be in our backyard next year and potentially for 2026 as well. If you're looking for other credits, our local chapter will be providing qualifying credits. Oops, this is stuck. Coming up next on May 23rd at our second quarter breakfast meeting and panel discussion, which will be focused on workplace violence. At our June 6th, second annual healthcare leadership quorum, which has 3 different panels on hot topics, and we'll have a lot of different other events that are coming up, both for qualifying in person, and we're working on providing some virtual as well for 2024. Oops, hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. So 2 other pieces or components of eligibility are volunteer activities. You have to do 4 volunteer activities within the 3-year period of applying for advancement. So 2 of these need to be community or civic, and 2 need to be healthcare related. We provide 20 on average healthcare volunteer activities for our chapter each year at this point. And we are typically now labeling whether they are healthcare related or community or civic related to make it easier for our folks that are reporting these. These are all self-reported. People ask, do you have to provide confirmation of them? I would say no. Generally, you're providing the title, the date, the location. It doesn't even ask for a number of hours. But if you are audited or asked for information, I would have that somewhere as maybe in a log. Like I did the Center for Success and Independence from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on such and such a date, twice, and that counted as my 2 healthcare related activities. I have not heard about a lot of audits or that sort of thing, so I wouldn't worry too much about that, but I would have the data if you need it. Civic and community, some examples of those are like our Houston Food Bank activity, working on McGovern Gardens, which is coming up. Healthcare related can be any of the fundraising walks that are done. If you donate or work at a blood drive, working with our children at the Center for Success and Independence. If there's a direct tie to healthcare, then it's easier to make that connection to the healthcare related. And if you have any questions, you can ask us first or ask ACHE National for a determination on the event. They typically do not want you to do ones where it's part of your job. Like, so if you're already doing community outreach as part of your job, they don't want you to count that because you're getting paid hours for that. So this should be something that you're doing for the benefit of the community, that you're not getting a personal gain, personal gain from. If you log in to ache.org, you can find a fellow progress tool. This will show if you've met the requirements. I think this is also new. They didn't have this when I applied, but this helps you figure out where you sit on the requirements and should be updated in fairly real time, particularly with the credits as you're, self-reporting or qualifying. So you can see this 11 hours here. ACHE in person and ACHE virtual interactive are reported by and through ACHE National. So sometimes there is a lag of up to 6 weeks for those, but they do get added automatically. Your volunteer activities down at the bottom, and if they've received your references. I will say, please monitor this, because I found at least 2 cases where I've submitted a reference and somewhere along the way they didn't get it and I had to resubmit that. So after your reference has been submitted, I am now forwarding a confirmation email to my person I'm writing a reference for or doing the structured interview for, and then they're following up a week or 2 after to make sure that those references have been received properly. The other advanced degree, current position, the 5 years of healthcare management experience, those are all determined, as I mentioned, by ACHE National from the documents that you have uploaded or provided to them. So the application process, if you go to acha.org, you would click on a fellow FACHE here, and then go over to start or continue your application on the drop-down menu on the left-hand side, or from your member portal after you've logged in and you're in your My ACHE, you would click on the drop-down menu, which is on the far right, and that has apply for FACHE. So this is the basic application process. Once you meet the eligibility requirements, you submit your completed application. There is a $250 application fee. ACHE confirms completion of your eligibility requirements, then they authorize you to sit for the Board of Governors exam, the BOG. They give you a code, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but your application from this point is valid for 2 years. So that's when the timer really starts counting down. So you need to be aware of that. You would then take your code that they give you, register for the exam. There is a $225 exam fee, but we'll talk about how you can get that waived. And then you are ready to go. After you schedule your exam, you take your exam. Sometimes there is a delay because this site, Pearson View, is used for a lot of different exams. So like professional engineers and accounting and anything you can think of, they're all doing the exams at those sites. So you're competing with all the other people that are getting professional exams or certifications. So I encourage you to pick some dates, get yourself scheduled, and don't leave it till the end of maybe a calendar year or the end of your period of 2 years once you're authorized to sit for the exam and become a fellow. One way, and this is the main way, you can not have to pay your $225 exam fee is between March 1st, so we're in this window right now, and June 30th, you can have your exam fee waived. If you meet your eligibility requirements, complete the application and your $200 fee. If you're approved by ACHE, you now should be waived automatically for that $225 fee on your first attempt. So this is different than in the past when you had to apply for this exemption, for this fee waiver exemption. So the exam itself is 230 multiple choice questions. You have 6 hours to complete this. 200 of those questions are actually scored and 30 are pilots. So about every 5 years or so, we shift the exam slightly to better align with job requirements. And I'll talk about that in a second. And 30 of those questions, each test, are going to be pilot questions that they're looking to see how people answer them, how well they answer them, if it's too easy or too hard. But they don't tell you what 30 questions out of those 230 are the pilot questions. So you don't know which ones you're being scored on, which ones are pilot. The exam itself covers 10 knowledge areas or domains, and we'll talk about those in a minute. And again, you have 6 hours to complete. You can take a break. You can eat a snack. You do have to be screened in and out, basically, because they want to make sure that you're not, of course, cheating on this exam or going and studying in between and answering questions that you didn't know before. So this exam, they conduct a job analysis study every 5 years. So the last one I think was in 2022. They look at the relevancy, the frequency, and the importance of job-related tasks and skill sets, and this informs the Board of Governors exam content outline or the blueprint of which question areas or which content areas to include and which ones to phase out. So this does change over time. I would say it's pretty slow and incremental, but it does change over time. So the exam content itself, you can see these are the 10 knowledge areas like finance, business, quality and performance improvement, professionalism and ethics. The percent of the total in column number 2. So you can see healthcare is the biggest component at 15%, followed by management and leadership at 13%. The number of questions that breaks out to be out of the 200. This is a nice breakdown of the exam and the content. So you can see what percentage and what number of questions comprise the exam itself. This is data we were never given before, but we have available at the moment. One is the first time test taker pass rate is 69%. So before we were always told it was around 70. We were never given a passing score, which overall is around 65%. So that's hard data that we weren't given prior. If you pass your exam, and I will tell you, at least with my electronic exam at Pearson, You have to scroll all the way to the bottom to see pass or fail. At the top, they'll start telling you your breakdown of each area and how well you scored on them in terms of percentage, but you have to scroll all the way to the bottom. So make sure to do that before you kind of make an assumption on based on your scores at the top of the specific 10 areas. If you pass, you get to go to the convocation ceremony the following year. So this is anytime between now, January 1st of this year, and the end of this year, you get to go to the 2025 convocation ceremony. Again, that's in Houston, Texas next year. If you fail, you can try again. You do have to wait 60 days between your attempts, but you can take it as many times as you need to in that 2-year period. And we have had people that have not passed on their first attempt. So, this is a beefy exam. This is a hard exam. If you don't prepare correctly, you may not pass on your first attempt. But I know several people that have passed on their second attempt, and it was tweaking their studying and what they studied for the second attempt. So let's talk for a few minutes on preparation resources. There is an exam content outline available on the ACHE national site, as well as an executive competency assessment tool. The biggest thing that you need to do is develop a plan, and that can include how much and when you're going to study, if you're going to take a review course, if you're going to buy some of the resources that are available nationally, such as books and flashcards, which I'll go through in a minute. But basically, this is a sketch of what you need to do. You need to assess your current knowledge and skill level. If you work in healthcare finance all the time, you probably don't have to study as much for healthcare finance. If you do nothing with quality and performance improvement, you may need to study more for healthcare performance improvement. Most people, I'm told, study for about 3 to 6 months, prepare in a 3 to 6 month block. You have to use the most effective study style that works for you. So if that's making flashcards from your reading, or buying a flashcard set, or studying with a partner, then definitely use whatever works the best for you. Definitely focus on our 10 key knowledge areas, and remember that questions are job related and experience based, which is why they want the 5 years of experience, as opposed to just saying this is a regurgitation of facts for the exam. So we have an upcoming virtual Board of Governors exam review course. It runs for 10 weeks. It's 20 hours long. So every Thursday for 2 hours, we tackle a different knowledge area of the exam. This will start on April 4th and run through June 6th. We also bring in recent past test passers that have taken the exam in the past year, sometimes in the last few months, to give you their tips and pitfalls of the exam. We provide sample test questions, and we give you an understanding of the exam content and structure. This also will provide up to 20 qualifying education hours. And of course, now you can only report 12 of those, but boom, you got 12 qualifying education hours, and you don't have to worry about that category anymore. So the exam study set, this is available on ACHE National's website. You get a discount as an ACHE member. You also get a discount if you buy the bundle of the 4 books, or the bundle of the 4 books and the flashcards. But the 4 books and their editions are shown here. So you might want to pay attention if you're trying to buy them off Amazon of what edition you're getting, because the older editions may not be up to date in terms of what's provided out of them for the exam content. I will say the primary book is the Well-Managed Healthcare Organization. So if you only buy a single book, that is the one to get. That gives you the most background and covers the most knowledge areas. The other 3 are really specific to a specific subject area. So human resources and healthcare, introduction to financial management of healthcare organizations, and information technology for healthcare managers are very specific subject areas on the exam. There's also a flashcard set. If you buy the set directly from National, you get physical and a digital access, so you can do the digital on your computer or phone. This is a way to get key terminology, concepts on a flashcard already pre-made for you. We have a few sets that we loan out from the chapter as well. And this didn't exist when I took the exam, but I think several people have used this and find it, moderately helpful also to reinforce their learning and preparation for the exam. It's $140 if you buy the set by itself. Again, you can also buy it in a bundle with the 4 books to get a discounted pricing. Let's switch gears for a minute, and talk about recertification. So once you are a fellow, your fellow status is good for 3 years. Upon that point of time, you have to do a recertification. So every 3 years, you have to complete 36 continuing education credits, because part of this is not only showing your knowledge at a period of time, but maintaining your knowledge over time and your investment in the profession. So again, you need to do at least 12 in-person hours, 12 virtual interactive credits, and only a maximum of 12 qualifying education. And you can do 36 in-person if you go to a lot of in-person events that are qualified by, approved by ACHE National, which is nice because this is where I meet my requirement in those 36 hours of in-person education, because I tend to go to quite a bit of in-person education. You also need to participate in 2 healthcare activities that are civic and 2 that are, 2 community service activities that are healthcare related and 2 that are community or civic related every 3 years, and submit those as part of your recertification. Other than that, you just pay your $200 recertification fee and you're done. So there isn't additional requirements beyond this to recertify every 3 years. You do have to remain a member of ACHE, I think, is the only other thing to note. So don't let your membership lapse. Maintain that, and don't get in a position where you have to retake the test. They do offer a second way to recertify. You still have to do your healthcare and civic community service activities and pay the recertification fee, but you can just take the exam as opposed to doing your 36 hours of credit. I don't recommend this way because the exam is hard. So unless you're a really, really good exam taker and this is a time saver for you, I don't recommend this as the route to recertify. So I want to congratulate you on taking your step on this journey to become a fellow. And I want to refer you to the ACHE Customer Service Center. They're available on Central Time, 8 to 5. I would encourage you to call them and not use the email. We've had some issues with emails not being responded to either timely or at all. But use the phone number, call them, ask for somebody that can give you a determination or answer your questions specifically about your fellow application. They do offer this 15-minute now concierge appointment, as they're calling it, for fellow related questions. So that's nice. You can schedule that online and get some feedback or determination up front. And I'll end there and we can take questions. I'm going to put the exam review course in the chat so you can see that. But if you want to type in your questions or come off mute and answer questions, please do so.
Hello, Mark. Thank you for the presentation. Do you mind going back one slide to where you had the information with the concierge link?
Sure. I can copy and paste that into the chat too.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's basically, I think it's on the page that they have set up for the fellow information so it should be on that same page there, and the navigation is over on the left-hand side.
Okay. All right. So I'll go there. Thank you.
Sure.
Second question, you talked about the exam being changed like every 5 years. Do you know
Yeah.
when it was changed last?
Well, based on 2022, that means they're probably injecting new questions starting sometime in 2022. So the next major change would come in 2027.
Thank you.
And it does change really slowly. Like once we pass the, the Affordable Care Act, like
Mhm,
those specific questions or questions pertaining to those
mhm.
took, I would say minimally 3 to 7 years to get in the exam itself. So it takes a while for them to work through those test questions, those 30 questions on the exam, and see how people respond before they're implemented as questions that are scored.
I see. Thank you.
Sure. Yep.
And Mark, this is Kevin. Great presentation. Thank you for the information. Quick question. I know there's obviously several requirements with the credits. Can you sit for the test before you finish all the credits, or no, everything has to be checked off before? Because I know before they'll let you sit
Yeah.
for it, and say, well, we still have to finish those before we can, confer this onto you. But I don't know if now they means you have to have it done in order before you actually
Yeah.
sit for the exam.
That's a good question. In the past, they allowed you to sit, take, and pass your exam and then time out on your healthcare management 5 years experience. They no longer do that. You have to fulfill all of the requirements of the fellow before they allow you to sit for the exam. So they've changed that a little bit too. Um, you do need to fulfill all requirements before getting authorization to take the exam.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Anything else, guys?
Thanks for the presentation, Mark. Typically, how long does it take for someone to get the FACHE?
Oh, um,
Like on an
that's a
average?
that's a great question too. Some people, myself, I did it as soon as humanly possible. So I entered healthcare in 2009. I started off in a executive position, kind of straight off the bat, but I did it, I think, between 5 and 6 years. So, basically almost as soon as I was eligible. Some people end up waiting quite a while into their careers. So they're, a C-suite person and they're, kind of looking around and getting re-engaged with ACHE, and then they're like, yeah, I need to do that. So it really depends on the individual. I encourage people to do it sooner rather than later. Also, because if you're graduating from an MHA type program, some of that core information is already in your brain and fresh, as opposed to maybe later on when you've gotten very specialized and you no longer do anything with healthcare finance, or you no longer do anything with governance or something like that. So uh, my um, my advice is to take it as soon as you're able to, and then just do your maintenance. Cole
Okay.
or Kevin or Danny, do you want to comment on that? I know we're all over the map on when people do it.
Sure. I can share my experience. So I was an administrative fellow in 2011, 2012, and entered my first management position in 2012, and then took my Board of Governors exam in 2018. So I was about 6 years after my first management level position.
Okay, thank you. Um, to piggyback on that, so the current position when applying has to be an executive level position. I understand that. And so the 5 years of healthcare management experience, so does that also have to include the titles that you mentioned?
Um, so this is where there's the case by case review. So this
Okay.
also comes up for consultants, because typically consultants do not have like a direct reporting structure. So consultants can still become fellows. Professors can still become fellows. I would say you go to ACHE National and ask for a determination. I will say when you apply, and that I know that slide from National does say you have to have that title at the time you apply. Um, that has not been that go on to fellow. So I think there's some leeway there too. But we've also had people that are further along in their career. They're no longer a senior healthcare leader in an organization. they have the experience from the past, and they've still gone on and got their fellow as well. So I think really that becomes case by case determination, and there is leeway available there.
Okay, thank
I can
you.
also say that I did a case by case application. I spoke with somebody at National in order to qualify for those 5 years. Early in those 5 years, my title was physician practice manager, but I was able to show departmental control over multiple departments across a large geographic area, and that sufficed for that requirement, even though I wasn't in a director level position for the entire 5 years of that period.
Okay, thank you.
So question with that, are you suggesting to speak to nationals before application is submitted, or submit the application and ask for a personal review at that point?
I would say I don't know if they ask you for the $200 up front, but I would probably ask for a concierge appointment or a determination as soon as possible, right?
That would be my recommendation as well.
Anything else?
I had another question. So Mark, Taylor, do you both have MHA?
So when I got my fellow, I only had a PhD. So I was in a research science PhD. So we don't do master level degrees. You go directly from a Bachelor of Science to a PhD. I did go on later after I got my fellow to go back and do an MPH in healthcare management and policy, but that was more because I was now committed to the healthcare field and I wanted to broaden my knowledge base. But that's where the terminal degree comes into play. If you have an MD, a DNP or something like that, you do not have to have a master's, and it doesn't have to, again, the master's itself does not have to be in healthcare management or healthcare administration.
Okay, no, I was asking in general. I have a PharmD,
Mhm.
but I've been looking at the MHA programs and executive MBA programs, and I just wanted to get some perspective from those who had completed an
Gotcha.
MHA as far as how far does it take them or help them towards the executive securing and sort of being successful in the executive roles.
I will say for me, it helped quite a bit because I came from research science world, and dollars in research science, the way that finances work is way different than how it works in healthcare. And my first 5 years of experience was with the VA, which also had very different healthcare finance. So taking healthcare accounting and healthcare finance in my MPH program was really helpful. Healthcare policy management and organizational management, I should say. A lot of the core courses were really helpful for me. Cole, if you want to talk about your experience too, coming, you came into a fellowship and then went on to do your FACHE.
Correct. So I graduated with my MBA, and it was a MBA specializing in healthcare administration. So it was just an additional certificate, but the main body of focus was on healthcare, finance, policy, leadership, similar to what Mark was talking about. And of course, the coursework was foundationally beneficial, but one of the program requirements that I had to go through was the fellowship and more or less an internship. And that gave me broader experience to a large integrated healthcare delivery system, and just opened up networking possibilities, experience on my resume, and that job experience.
Mark, could I add?
Absolutely.
I think our local chapter has like a really great mentoring subcommittee. And so there are probably people in your exact same situation with like really relevant questions that could give you excellent advice on how to move forward and like what their specific pathway was. And so if you haven't already, definitely check out the mentoring subcommittee from our local chapter.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm going to put that link in the chat. So that's a rolling application. They match twice a year, free as you're an ACHE member. National also provides a mentor match if you are a full member. You cannot be a student member, but our local chapter does both. So highly encourage you to take advantage of those free resources as part of your membership as well.
Hey, Mark, where we'll be able to access this link afterwards to watch it again if need be.
I'm gonna upload to our YouTube channel and then do a couple of minor edits. I'll cut off the front and the back end. So likely tomorrow, as early as tomorrow. Then
Okay.
we'll eventually link it to the website as well. But I can probably send you the link and the slide set. Let's say it's tomorrow. Let's say by Friday.
Okay. All right, thanks. No problem. I need to talk to you offline anyway.
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, Mark. I have a question. This is Kimberly.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm driving right now, but my question is, you probably mentioned this, but is there somewhere on ACHE website to keep track of the credits as far as when you attend webinars, conferences,
Yes.
and volunteer events?
So once you go to ache.org, you log in and you go to My ACHE. On the right-hand side, you can look at My Education Credit, which will be your 3 different levels of credits. There's another one for the community service. You do, to note, you do have to self-report your community service. You do have to self-report your lowest level of credit, which is that qualifying education credit. The other 2 categories of credits are going to be automatically reported through ACHE National, and that's the ACHE in person and the ACHE virtual.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep, it's kind of like a little dashboard, which will be in the presentation. You can look on one of the slides. It'll show you what you're actually going to look for on the website.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mark, I have a question. How long are the credits that you complete, the 36 hours and the 4
Yep.
volunteer credits? How long are they valid for?
They're generally
Just-
valid for 3 years.
Okay.
So every 3-year period, you're going to do the 36 hours of credit and the 4 volunteer experiences, and then a new timeline will start for the next period. It's easier in the beginning to kind of find a cadence because you're trying to get them all together. Then you have that 2-year window for your fellow, and then once you're a fellow, then you start your 3-year clock from that calendar year. So it's really easy at that point to track that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Last call. All right, everyone, take care. We'll see you at an ACHE event soon. If you have additional questions, definitely reach out to myself, Cole, Danny, or Kevin as your local gurus on this. And happy to provide a structured interview if you need or give you any additional guidance. Again, the foundation course, which is starting April 4th, is a really great course to really get you some base information on each of the 10 areas and give you some tips and tricks from recent test passers.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.